Hi guys, my name is Trang, and for the genetics final project, I wanted to primarily focus on the sex chromosomes. And so I'm gonna bridge Module 8 and Module 9 together. Module 8, we begin by learning Gregor Mendel, and his substantial contribution to the realm of genetics. His experiments included garden peas. It was a model organism, fairly easy observable traits, and it was easy to cross and grow. And through these experiments of his, he developed the three laws of inheritance. And so the three laws of inheritance, it's going to be the law of dominance, the law of segregation, and the law of independent assortment. And so the law of dominance states that hybrid or heterozygous offsprings will only reveal the dominant trait in the phenotype. The alleles that are suppressed are the recessive traits. And the law of segregation states that during the production of gametes, two copies of each hereditary factor segregates so that offspring acquire one factor from each parent. Basically, the allele pairs segregate during the formation of germ cells and reunite randomly during fertilization. The law of independent assortment states that alleles and genetic components segregates independently of another pair during gamete formation, so independent. We are also introduced to the Punnett squares and dihybrid crosses, as well as the probability of reproduction in Module 8. So to the right is going to be an example of a pedigree from the textbook. Pedigrees essentially allows us to easily follow through the generations and see how certain mutations are correlated to certain things, like let's say sex-linked mutations or dominant and recessive or recessive mutations. So not all mutations are recessive. Some can be dominant, and that can be easily interpreted through pedigrees. Okay, so moving on to Module 9. We delve deeper into the roles of sex chromosomes and how cell division works. We went over both mitosis and meiosis, mitosis being the division process of somatic cells, while meiosis is the division of germ cells. In Module 9, we learned that Thomas Morgan's experiments provided evidence for genetic linkage and how his experiments essentially contributed to the study of genetics. His experiments were conducted with fruit flies mostly. And through these experiments, he proposed the chromosomal theory of inheritance. And so with his evidence supporting the theory, it is actually a very well-known theory today. It states that there is genetic linkage with chromosomes, and that certain genes are linked due to location on the chromosome. So where they are on the same chromosome or different chromosome affects the way recombination and crossing over works. And with these two modules, I felt like we did not learn more in depth, or that I'd like, I guess, about the sex chromosomes. And so that's why I was curious. I wanted to know how sex chromosomes play a part in the way organisms develop. As you can see in this figure, you see mammals, you see insects, birds, male and female. So I was curious about that, started looking into it. And so I came across a bunch of information, but let's see. A question that I always had was, were these sex chromosomes always there? Or let's say, did it emerge separately at a later time? And turns out that the sex chromosomes, they came from a pair of autosomes. So the differentiation of the sex chromosomes from ancestral autosomes emerged when one of the autosome pairs acquired a sex-determining gene. The autosomal pair went under a mechanism called chromosomal inversion, and that prevented recombination in the region. And so the present day human X chromosome is said to have approximately preserved like 98% of genes from the ancestral autosome, while the human Y chromosome has only approximately 3%. And so it definitely, the Y chromosome, it lacks a factor that allows, or I guess facilitates, preservation of ancestral genes. And so let's see, the Y chromosome is said to have, or is said to contain about 50 to 60 genes that provide instructions for making certain proteins, especially since only males have the Y chromosome. The genes on this chromosome tend to be involved with not only male sex determination, but their development. Um, and sex is actually determined by the SRY gene. And so that means the SRY gene is responsible for the development of a fetus into a male adult. And so researchers have found that other genes on the X chromosome are important for facilitating the male species and, let's say, the way they father their biological children. And this also includes fertility of male adults. Okay, and then I felt, let's see, to summarize this, felt as if I learned quite a bit about the possible defects on sex chromosomes. And the way it influenced the behavior of many sexually reproducing organisms, like stress resistance or tolerance, mental health, predispositions, I guess, and even perceptions of things. I also found that since the Y chromosome does not have a crossing over partner, the chromosome and genes are slowly being reduced or lost. Essentially, I came across this article that presented the issue of the Y chromosome's future. It's kind of disappearing on us since it lacks that factor. And the author in the article predicts that it's going to disappear at this in about 4 to 5 million years if it goes or continues at the rate that it's going. But the author also predicts that the SRY gene, which is the sex differentiating gene, is going to just move on to another chromosome, and we're not going to, experience some mass extinction. My question for, I guess, that I still have is, and I had this question way before, but I was always wondering if, since there's a big proportion of the population that is reliant on, let's say, medications and other things that facilitate an easier life, would this be passing down possibly undesirable genes? And that's about it.